Morning, Brownsville. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this feed. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Frank Olivo. Our program focuses on the very important issues that are affecting our local community. We have shed light on injustices and we've allowed for our platform, this mic, to be that of the voice of the people. Now, this is something that you can see yourself supporting. Well, we ask that you join the cause. Make sure that you're actively following us across all of our social media platforms. Currently, right now, this live program is being streamed on X, formerly known as Twitter, and on Facebook. We could be found under Frankie Olivo. We also encourage you to follow our personal page on Face. We could be found under Olivo Frankie. Where can I get stars? Dad, you can get stars on Facebook, but you don't have to send me anything. I appreciate you, though. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. But more importantly, if you haven't already, make sure that you create a Gmail account. If you haven't already, go to YouTube, like, follow, and subscribe to our channel titled Frankie Olivo TV. It's free. Remember, I will never ask you for money. I will never ask you for food. All I ask of my community is something very simple. You want us to continue to provide you with the latest information that is happening within our area, we'll gladly do so. All we ask in return is something very simple. Something as easy as ABC 1, 2, 3, as easy as it won't cost you a dime. Why? Why do you always start off your program advising us about following you across all of our social media platforms? Well, there may come a time where you may look for us on Facebook under Frankie Olivo, our page of over 46,000 subscribers, followers, and we may not be found. Why? Well, as of late, our Facebook page is at risk of being taken down. The powers that be do not want you, the people, to know the truth. But remember, we will never, ever be silenced. So if you're really about the cause and you want to stand up to corruption and you want to hold our elected leaders and those in leadership positions accountable, you know what to do. Make sure that you're actively following us on all of our social media platforms. Remember, Good Morning Brownsville will come on Monday through Friday religiously. So make sure that you are subscribed to Frankie Olivo TV to tune in. We will not be silenced. And always remember, South Texas, we are forever grateful to each and every one of you for the time and attention that you provide us and our platform. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for that. How we doing, chat? How we doing? Happy Wednesday. Didn't it feel like a hectic day yesterday? People were possibly calling you, messaging you, encouraging you, reminding you. If you haven't voted already, make sure you do so. You see, election is chaos. It is a time where candidates are doing their last minute run-throughs, making sure that everything that they have prepared for, everything that they've done, comes into fruition. Every text message, every phone call, every outreach that they try to make. Yesterday, you felt it in some sort of way. Possibly after, once the polls closed at 7 p.m., you were waiting for the results. You were anxious because you were a part of the process. You see, campaigns and elections are very worrisome, rigorous, tiring. And we may think, oh, I'm not running an election. I'm not part of this overall process. We are, because by us either participating in the process, allowing candidates to place their campaign litter, memorabilia, signs, posters on our properties, by us encouraging others to vote, by us voting, essentially, we ourselves took part of the process. And people were anxious. They were waiting. Frankie, are you going to have a show? I apologize. I was extremely busy yesterday. I did want to come on. I tried my best to post. We tried our best. I don't take credit by myself. We tried our best to relay the different races out there. And again, we here at Good Morning Brownsville, we have nothing but respect and admiration for those individuals that choose to put their name in the hat to run for the different government entities or the different positions that were up for election yesterday. And today I wanted to focus on the day after the election, because what comes next? You know, your humble servant did previously win unsuccessfully for the BISD board. And the day after an election, ladies and gentlemen, is a day of mixed emotions. You find yourself relieved because if you haven't run a race, if you haven't been part of a campaign, you don't understand how tiring it is. Not just physically, because again, candidates and their campaign workers, they're up from 7 in the morning, hitting it hard until 7, 8, 9, 10 at night. And it's 2 weeks of early voting, that grind, and then election day. And then now the day after an election. So sometimes, you know, the day after an election brings disappointment for those that have not been successful in our respective campaigns. Those that have won, possibly they are rejoicing. They are possibly recalibrating their approach, because you see, when a candidate wins, they automatically shift from campaign mode now to governance. They want to thank their supporters. They're reaching out. If they had a victory party, they're taking pictures and celebrating this momentous event with their people, because now the strategy totally changes. Because now what was once a vote for me, I am the best candidate, now what it's all about is you're organizing your transition teams. You're reaching out possibly to your former opponents. Why? Because you want to unify your base. You want to go over to those individuals that were in your race and say, it was a good race. I hope I can count on your and your supporters' vote. That's the way it works. Now, on the opposite side, those that fall short, they may reflect on data. You know, they're probably going through the information in which they heavily relied on and said, this wasn't accurate. You're possibly checking precinct level results to understand what worked and what didn't work. You see, whenever a candidate does not reach the 50% plus one vote, what ends up happening is that a required majority is not obtained, achieved, which triggers a runoff. And the focus changes dramatically. Now the candidates possibly are studying demographics. What were the results? Why was this a low voter turnout? Which opponent supporters might be persuadable? Who can I bring into my team? Possibly there are discussions in regards to fundraising resources. How can I stretch the money that I have? How can I gain more money? Because we need to stretch this until the runoff in May. You see, runoff elections, they present unique challenges. It's scary because you just don't know. While you possibly were in the lead and feel comfortable with a large margin, at the end of the day, a runoff, it's starting from scratch, 0-0. We all know of voter fatigue. It's a real concern. When we think about Cameron County, ladies and gentlemen, they are about 225, let's say, thousand registered voters. The county possibly saw 30,000 voters come out. What is that percentage? So if voter fatigue was real in the primaries, in a closely contested or highly publicized race, now some voters, they may feel that their preferred candidate is no longer in the race and they're not going to be motivated to return to the polls. That's the reality of what's going to happen in May. The dynamics changes drastically. Historically, what we have seen has been that runoff elections, particularly those held weeks or months later, there tends to be a lower turnout than the initial vote, which occurred yesterday and the previous 11 election days for early voting. Because it's hard. It's hard to run a race, period. And then you're asking people, you're begging people, please come out to vote. Now imagine having to go and say, it's me again. Ando de gorroso. Do you? So it's a very candidates are walking on pins and needles because there are several factors that come into play in regards to the runoff elections. How competitive is the runoff perceived to be? How effective has the campaign communicated what's at stake? How easy is voting access, whether through early voting, mail-in ballots? Are any issues out there going to cause these people to come out and vote? You see, campaigns that maintain grassroots outreach, what they rely on is clear messaging. This is my campaign. This is my candidacy. This is what I have to offer to you, the people. And those consistent voters, you can either persuade them or deter them from not voting for you. So ultimately, campaigns who are strong, grassroots, who have that outreach, who have the people within their camp that are going to motivate. We need to galvanize the troops. We need to be in a position to bring back those voters in May, back to the polls for a second time. You see, it's very difficult running a race. What is happening is that we are starting to see a shift. And this happens on every stage, whether that be here locally or at the national level. What is interesting about politics, ladies and gentlemen, is that thank you for tuning in. You see, you people think that you're hurting me by, I don't know, calling me out, so to speak, or posting my mugshot, or throwing a jab here or there. I get paid for every like, comment, and share, every view. So thank you so much for contributing. I hope you keep on asking questions and posting things because it all goes back to me. Whenever we talk about what has been going on, and I'll answer, we answer questions. What happened in, let's say, the District 34 race? Well, based on the data that was given, it was wrong. You see, whenever you study races and you study demographics, you tend to rely on the data, and you're only as good as your data. I hope I don't sound like an attorney because you're only as good as your case, as your facts. The data ultimately is what guides the campaign. What happened to Maida? People were exhausted of possibly voting for Maida for a third, fourth time. The president's endorsement, the governor's endorsement, possibly or effectively helped out Eric Flores. The trip to Corpus Christi with the president, did it help? Of course. There's a combination of things. What I want to be clear is we're starting to see a shift, Gene. We're starting to see a shift, and it is happening at the national level. And it's like I hate to use this term, but it's like when they used to talk about an economics class, it's trickle-down economics, Frankie. It's trickle-down economics. Y Frankie de Burro, oh, yeah, it's trickle-down economics. Any questions? Sir, what's trickle-down economics? What is happening at the national level, Gene, is ultimately going to be felt here locally. Whenever we talk about President Trump, you see, the Republican Party gerrymandered Congressional District 34 into a plus Republican red 11. What did we see? Again, it's all about data, ladies and gentlemen. We live in a numbers world, especially if you run campaigns. What did we see from yesterday's turnout? Was that the Democratic Party in the state of Texas overwhelmingly outperformed the GOP. And if we study what happened in November of 2024, we see how Cameron County, the Rio Grande Valley, well, Cameron and Hidalgo, they voted for Trump 52%. What did we see from yesterday? We saw how that flipped from pro-Trump 52%. The March primary of 2026 showed that 75% of this area voted Democrat. Why? Why did this happen? There's a combination of things. Again, whatever happens at the national level. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, we are at war with Iran. Many people believe and insinuate and even state on the record that say the only reason why the United States is attacking Iran is because of Israel. We are Israel's puppets. People do not want war. We do not support war. Nobody wants American bloodshed for a foreign country. That is blasphemous. So we have the war in Iran. We have the cost of living, the cost of goods, the tariffs. Has your grocery bill gone down? Life, ladies and gentlemen, is expensive. We're not living the American dream. We're trying to survive paycheck to paycheck. If you haven't realized, times are tough. You see, we want to believe in, President Trump is this great savior of the United States, but what have we seen? We have seen how the Salud, Romeo. Hope to see you soon. We have seen how the Hispanics throughout the country, will focus on Rio Grande Valley, have been outraged with the ICE deportations. They are calling that inhumane. So the Republican Party is losing ground. How could that affect what is happening here? Well, if we look at the turnouts for the different congressional districts, if we focus on 34, which is our area, we saw the Democratic Party came out to vote. People say, Frankie, it's the midterms. Republicans don't come out to vote. They wait until the general election, possibly. But it's not a good sign because you need momentum. You want momentum. At the White House, nothing is giving. The approval rating for the president is going down. This isn't me just, this is the reality. These are the facts. Again, we're only as good as our facts, as data shows us. Amongst the Latino voters, President Trump is losing approval ratings. Why? Number of reasons. We just explained them. If we look at James Tallarico, who performed overwhelmingly in the Rio Grande Valley. Look at this. Hidalgo County, plus 36. Cameron County, plus 29. What does that show us? That the Latino now is more open to return back to the Democrat Party. Why? Because the GOP, Republican Party in office at the White House, at the Senate, at the House level is not producing. What do I care that we are going to war in Iran? Again, I do care. But how is that going to affect my pocketbooks? Hey, gas is still expensive. Somebody sent me a message. Frankie, no jodas. You were trying to convince me that overtaking the Maduro overtaking Maduro dictatorship was going to help American gas prices go down, Frankie. And you're right. Pitmaster. The prices have gone down, but you know, and again, I am no expert in the field, but whenever I think of us overtaking Venezuela or controlling Venezuela, that is a large producer of of oil, which could generally reduce our gas prices. To me, as a layperson, as a common folk, I have no specialization in that field. I would think, invadieron a Venezuela, ahora están en Irán. Entiendo que están en guerra, quizás por eso los precios están altos, pero pues tienen el petróleo de Venezuela y todavía están cobrando $2.99 por el tanque de gas, como que no suena. Again, to the average person, it's not working. And these numbers, ladies and gentlemen, these numbers show us that. Again, the people, for the most part, they tend to vote with their pocketbooks. Usually. What did we see? Again, we saw how not just Cameron County, but the state of Texas saw this. Cameron County is our most southern border. Trump won this county in 2024 by 6%. Tallarico has now received more votes in Cameron County than all three Republican candidates together. When the Texas voted to redistrict, they relied on the Latino Republican in South Texas to vote deeply red. Republicans in those districts didn't represent well tonight. So what does that show us? It shows us that the Democratic Party has been making ground. And I absolutely agree, Scuba. Pitmaster, based in previous years when Biden was in office, we were paying what, $360? I remember $340, $350. But you're right. Compared to where we were to where we at now, it's ganancia. It's a good thing. I'm just saying it how people are understanding things. That's all. And I totally agree. You know, we are a lot better than what we were, and we hope that we're even better. When it was 250, I was pumping at 209 when the Venezuela thing happened, Pitmaster. And I was like, man, it's going to be gravy from here on. And then it jumped to 239 and then 250. And I was like, And then 299. I was like, oh my God. But again, you make a great point. So what have we seen? That Texas, ladies and gentlemen, has been making ground. Many insiders. Again, whenever we think of Texas, we think red. There's no. When was the last governor? Was it Ann Richardson? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since we've had a Democratic governor. After yesterday's election results, Governor Abbott and his war chest of $100 million should feel the heat. Because now a Brownsville native, Gina Hinojosa, being named the governor of Texas is a possibility. Something that no one would dare say. A Democrat governor in the state of red hardcore Texas? You are losing it up here, Frankie. But now, according to people that study numbers, if Gina Hinojosa is able to pull 38 to 40% of the Hispanic Latino voters in Texas, she will be the next governor. Something that many people did not think would ever happen. Because why? Did the Republican Party take advantage of the Latino, of the Hispanic? They thought, we won big with them and they're going to be faithful no matter what. According to yesterday's data across the state of Texas, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. And when we look at the elections here locally, what do we see? We see how powerhouses are going to be going out to a runoff. We have incumbent Joey Lopez for Precinct 2 into a runoff with Joseph Lucio, the nephew, the cousin of the senator and of the rep. Can you imagine that? The Lopez family against the Lucios going at it for a position on a very powerful seat in Cameron County? Many people anticipate Joey Lopez being able to withstand the um, the threat that Lucio possesses. And many people possibly aren't aware. But the interesting thing about politics, ladies and gentlemen, is just because you lose doesn't mean you are worthless, doesn't mean you're a loser. How Susan for the Corrupt likes to say. No. In this race, you know who's very powerful? More powerful than Joey Lopez, incumbent and challenger Joseph Lucio? Martin Arambula. Because he could possibly sway this election. Who will Arambula endorse? Will there be an endorsement? You know, people say, hey, I ran against the guy. Why am I going to support him? Why am I going to tell my followers to support him? There are those people. I didn't believe in him. That's why I ran against him. I'm not gonna endorse him. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. There's people that see that there is leverage. Martino Lambura, if he wanted, if he entertained the idea, he could possibly sway this election. Because the difference between Joey Lopez and Joseph Lucio is 1,000 votes, 981 votes, 1,000 votes. Martina Lambura brought in 3,000 votes. You see how the runoff elections is crazy? Another powerhouse is the Cameron County judge race. Eddie Trevino was very impressive, bringing in 14,500 votes. The interesting thing about this race, ladies and gentlemen, is look at Eric Garza. He came within 4% of the vote, 1,500 votes, 1,400 votes. Eric Garza did not do anything. Imagine if the guy would have given a little bit of effort. Hey, a poquito, bro. Something. Again, there are many people that stated that the reason why Eddie Garza was in this place to begin with was to cause a runoff. You just sit there, look pretty, don't move, don't even breathe loudly. Because again, anything could happen. Anything could happen in a runoff race. That's the interesting thing. So is Eric Garza going to throw his support behind Steve Guerra? That's what many people anticipate. Is Steve Guerra able to convince those that question his candidacy? Steve still has yet to answer where he works. What's his source of income? Where's his office? Is it true about the question marks that people have been asking about him being a huachicolero, of having ties to organized crime? Is he able to answer those questions? He's not going to. He can't. Because everything you say will and shall be held against you in a court of law. That's the way it works. So he's acting dumb. He's going on these interviews saying that he's being defamed. They're lying about my name. What exactly is being lied about, sir? Let's clarify these issues. Let's go on the record. If you ever feel that anyone has defamed you, tell us. How? What? Why? When? Who? But he won't. You see, Steve Guerra is hoping for the Eric Garza support. Is it going to come? That was the deal all along. Force a runoff, Eric, and then have your people support me. But are Eric's people going to support Steve Guerra blindly? I don't know. So Eddie Trevino has been, will be very strong. And it's going to be interesting how this race turns out. Because the incumbent has shown over and over again, election after election, that he brings his people out to vote. Will Steve Guerra be able to bring in 4,000, 5,000 more voters from Eric Garza? Possibly. Jonathan Gracia was able to to pull off what many people call an upset. Look, we have been criticized for supporting someone such as Jonathan Gracia. What we appreciate here more than anything is a candidate that is all about giving. You see, we're going to have our disagreements with candidates, and candidates, you know, we might like what they're all about, what they do, and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we want action, because we have this maybe it's a misconception that politicos, they don't care about us. All they're there for is themselves, to enrich themselves, to benefit themselves, and they only come to us whenever it's time to ask for our vote. It shouldn't be that way. And I appreciate someone such as this man, who during his time in office, 4 years as a justice of the peace in Cameron County, he not only donated his time, which is important, but even more so, he gave $80,000 in 4 years. You're talking about giving your salary, $20,000 per year. You know what he could have done with that money? You know, he could have put that in an IRA, in a trust fund account for his family. How that $80,000 could have made him more money. But you know what? He's not just talking the talk. He's actually showing it. And the best way for you to show your community that you're invested, that you care, and that you will give back is by focusing on our social programs that have many needs. Friendship of Women, a great organization that empowers women, that takes care of families, that encourages them to leave domestic violence and houses them and provides them toiletries, food, opportunity. That's a great organization to support. This man supports that. You want more? This man was actively going after the veterans. What do you need? How can I help you? Here's food. Here's my time. Here's my card. If you have any questions, call me. You want more? This man donated and continues to provide scholarships for our youth. How can you not? So this man spends money on domestic violence, and he provides opportunities for them. He provides opportunities for veterans who so desperately needed, and even more so, he provides opportunity to our youth. Man, I hate to blow smoke, but this guy's the real deal from top to bottom. Is he going to do the same thing? I would dare say yes. Because he himself has said in his campaign videos that he has posted, it's all about action. It's all about rolling up your sleeves, being a part of the community, having presence. Because, you know, being present is what every child wants, right? We want our family to be there. We want our politicos to be there. We want them when it's tough. But not just their time, pero mira, mucho te. This man has done that. And look, the results speak for themselves. Jonathan Gracia beat the incumbent by 3,000 votes. An interesting race. The Texas rep for District 34 on the Democrat side is going to go into a runoff. Ociel Ochoa and Esme Cantu Paso will be going to a runoff. And again, the third party, Stephanie Barr, who is she going to endorse? Is she going to be part of this? She holds leverage. She did bring in 3,000 votes. That within itself will sway this election. Is she going to get involved? The winner of this Democratic primary runoff race in May will challenge Jenny Lopez. Jenny Lopez defeated the challenger 70-30. Proves to us again that Jenny Lopez is strong. Very strong. Now, again, is the blue wave that many people are anticipating coming into the general election in 2026, are one of these candidates, will they be able to dethrone Jenny Lopez? Based on the data? No. But what have we learned? The data is wrong. Why? Because there's so many variables out there. Is Janie Lopez acceptable to the blue wave? That's what people are talking about. That's what they're going to say. You see, ladies and gentlemen, elections are challenging. You think you know, but you have no idea. When we talk about the at the Senate, the Senate race has been one to follow. We see how John Cornyn allegedly spent $70 million against Ken Paxton's $4 million, and look how close they came. It wasn't even it was a 40-40. Paxton only spent $4 million and he forced a runoff. That's crazy, right? Again, right now, ladies and gentlemen, the day after the election, it encompasses so many different variables. It's often a mix of relief, disappointment for many candidates. Now the people that won their races, now they're looking forward to, how can I thank my supporters? How can I organize this transition? How can I reach out to those people that voted and worked hard against me? Are people going to reach out and say, hey, I hope to count on you. Together we can defeat XYZ candidate. If a candidate does not do that, they will lose. They need to make sure that they are strong going into the runoff, that they are strong in the general election. And that's the way it works. Because voter fatigue, if you didn't notice it yesterday and in this primary, you're going to see it in May. It's tough. It's tough, people. Ya, déjame en paz. Ya voté. Leave me alone. No, man. ¿Cómo está, señora? Pues, ¿qué cree? Le estoy pidiendo por su voto otra vez. Ay, mijo, ya, déjame en paz, por favor. The day after an election is a mix of feelings. It's you're up, you're down, you're down, you're up. It's crazy. People are walking on pins and needles because you feel that you're the best candidate, but what do you see? What do you see? Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Frankie Level TV. Best believe we'll go on Monday through Friday religiously. All we ask of our community is something very simple. All we ask for is for you to subscribe to our social media platforms. Thank you so much for your time, your attention. Hope to see you here tomorrow morning. My name is Frankie Level, and this is Good Morning Brownsville. Peace. Ooh.